I'm also moved by it.
Yes. Yes, tell me about that. What moves you?
You talking to me?
And the winner for the Best New Film Podcast goes to... Nolan Jones and Brady Odom, Pretentious Film Bros. Congratulations.
Wow, this is an unbelievable honor. There's so many people to thank. We could go on for, man, 6.5, 7 minutes. We got to thank, of course, we've got to begin with our parents who they raised us, they taught us what we know, and then of course the Academy for giving us this opportunity. YouTube, you're such a great platform. It's just, this is
I don't even know where
unbelievable.
to start. A list of 12 people. Maybe, it would take us 30 seconds, but no, I think we're getting played off. We're not going to pull an Adrian Brody. We're not going to sit here
I
and
wasn't
give
going to say his name, but you're
a
just going to
30-minute.
throw him under the bus.
You know what? He got up there and he spoke that long, so he threw himself under that bus. But thank you. We could not be more grateful for what.
We're completely shocked and honored to have this opportunity. You know, we stand on the giants of those who have come before us. We stand on the giant shoulders of Josh and Adam with Film Spotting. We stand on the shoulders of the Last Picture Show. We wouldn't be here without you guys.
I'm at a loss for words.
Well, that's
so I guess that, yeah, well, I guess that just means we probably should go ahead and get into our discussion at hand.
I guess we probably should. We've played around long enough, huh?
We've won, but there's always next year. And
there's always
we
next
can always
year.
do better.
We've got to make sure we're ahead of it for the next year.
Absolutely. So, Nolan, why don't you go ahead and, if they couldn't guess what we're talking about tonight, go ahead and make it clear to everybody what we're going to be discussing.
Well, yes. Well, tonight here on the Pretentious Film Bros podcast, we take this special episode to discuss the 2025-26 Oscar nominations. In this episode, we are going to break it all down. Of course, there's going to be categories that we can't get to all of them. There's categories that we're not quite equipped to speak on, whether we haven't seen the film or it's not an area that we tend to focus a lot of our time with. So obviously, those categories will not be included in this discussion. But we're going to talk, we've got a couple shoe-in categories where we think the winner is just obvious and we just want to briefly mention it. We've got other categories that are maybe minor categories, but they're ones that we either saw most or all of the feature films included in them, and we wanted to spend some time just giving our thoughts. And then, of course, you've got the big ones. And we're going to really take some time and just break those down. With the best actor, best actress, best supporting actor and actress. We're going to talk about the screenplays. We're going to talk about the directors. And of course, what would an Oscar special show be without talking about our picks for the best picture? Now, with each of these categories, as we kind of work our way through them, we're going to be giving you both the film that we would pick as the winning film for each category, as well as the film that we think the Academy will end up picking that will ultimately win the award. Now, in some of those categories, those options may overlap. We may have the same choice where we think the Academy is going to go, or we may be vastly different. That's part of why we wanted to really talk about both of those as we go. So, Brady, we're going to go ahead and actually we wanted to mention here on the front end, there's a new category in the Oscars this year that has never been included, and that is the category of Best Casting. So we just wanted to mention that. It's something new that the Academy's put up this year. It's really kind of a big deal because you think about those casting directors and those people who they pick the people who make the film.
Absolutely.
Because a great director can elevate a film. A great script can elevate a film, but really, if you don't have the actors that are in the film that really are just pouring out their heart and their soul and their talent. It really doesn't matter how great your script is, how competent your director or your cinematographer are, if the people that are bringing the story to life don't capture that in a way that moves us, right?
Hmm.
So the casting director is the one that really, they see all the auditions, they see all the tapes, they see all the actors and actresses come, and they're kind of the gatekeepers for the people that will enter into this film from a storytelling point of view as the characters that we come to know and love, and some iconic characters, some iconic roles came out of 2025 that are up for Oscars this year. And we just wanted to mention those casting directors very briefly. Again, it's not a category we're going to feel qualified to really talk a lot about, but it was something new that the Academy added this year. So we wanted to go ahead and mention that. We thought it was worth mentioning and honoring those people who are really, their name is hidden in the credits, but they play such a large gatekeeping role of the story and the film that is being produced.
Absolutely.
So with that, Brady, we're going to go ahead, and we've got 3 shooing categories. Do you want to go ahead and tell us both what they are and what we collectively, because you and I have the same opinion in these 3 categories, what we think they will be, and what we just know that if they're wrong, the Academy they really messed up.
No, absolutely. And even before we go into that, I actually did want to say something briefly about casting. When you're, like you said, they are the ones that bring the movie to life. And I actually, too, as I was looking at these nominees, I was going to read them off. And I was even going to say, I have one that I think is the clear winner. I think you got to see
Absolutely.
3 out of 5 of these. It's also important, all 5 of these are nominated for Best Picture, which, of course, makes sense. They should be, in my opinion. I think that's, I don't know how you get around that.
Right.
But in that, you have the casting director, Nina Gold, with Hamnet. You have the casting director, Jennifer Venditti, with Marty Supreme. You have the casting director with Cassandra Koulakundis, which is for One Battle After Another. Again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing any of these. Trying my best here. You have The Secret Agent, which is Gabriel Dominguez. And then you have Sinners, which is Francine Meisler. And as I was looking at all of these, one of the things that actually stuck out to me when I was watching this movie this past year was the casting.
Really?
And it stuck out to me in another movie by this same director. And it makes sense because when you're looking at it, casting is, of course, the main actors, main actresses. It's, of course, you have the supporting actresses, supporting actors, but it's also the extras. It's also anybody that's allowed to be in that film that helps create that film.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if it's the only one it walks out with on Sunday night, I believe the casting should go to Marty Supreme. And that is for more reasons than one. It is, you have Tyler, the Creator, who is a rapper, who's never done really any big time screen acting. You have Kevin O'Leary, who he's an actor of sorts, being on Shark Tank as a venture capitalist. You have, I believe it's George Gervin, who is a 1960s, 70s basketball player. And you have all of these other people. You have people who, Fran Drescher, who of the Nanny fame, sitcom from the 80s and 90s. It's like you have all of these very random assortments of people. That Penn Jillette, I can't even believe I forgot him. Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller fame. You have all of these random assortments of people coming together, and some of them may have never acted. Some of them haven't acted for years, and yet all of them, not one of them feels out of place. They make a very real movie. And so, of course, all the casting on the other films, I do think they did a great job. I think you have One Battle After Another. You have Paul Thomas Anderson working with one of the most accomplished actors of the modern era, and Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's like you have these all kinds of different picks, but I do believe Marty Supreme would have to win for casting. It should win just based on assortment and curating alone. And if that's what casting's about, which I think it is,
Yeah.
that's what I believe should take it away. So I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was very cool to like see how when you watch a movie, how important casting is. And so, especially when it sticks out and for a good reason. And so in the movie, of course, I was referring to is Uncut Gems, where you had Adam Sandler and Kevin Garnett and Lakeith Stanfield all in the same movie.
Mhm.
That and The Weeknd, right? Like you have these unique tastes that work well for that movie that maybe wouldn't work in any other setting. And so I don't know if Jennifer Venditti is the one who did it before, but she did a fantastic job with Marty Supreme. So just wanted to mention that.
Like you did.
Yeah, but moving forward, when we talk about shoe-ins, there might be some other ones that we believe or one of us believes are shoe-in categories. Like there's no way that this goes to another movie. But we kind of wanted to talk about the ones we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about and the ones that we are like both unanimously certain on.
Yeah.
And the first one being the animated feature. And I will go ahead and read off those nominees, although it really doesn't matter because there is a clear winner. And so, first of all, that first nominee with animated feature is K-pop Demon Hunters. And that's Maggie Kane, Chris Applehans, and Michelle L.M. Wong. You have Arco, which is Ugo Benavenu, Felix de Givry, Sophie Moss, and Natalie Portman, which also Natalie Portman. Okay.
Wild.
You have Elio, which was another like fairly popular animated film that came out. Wasn't talked about as much, but you have Madeline Sherifine, Domi Shi, Adrian Molina, and Mary Alice Drum. And then you have Little Amele, or the character of Rain, which is Mayes Vallede, Liane Chauhan, Nidia Santiago, and Henry Magalone. And then Zootopia 2, which is, it's so funny because you have all of these very elegant names that I'm definitely butchering. I'm trying my best. And then you have Jared Bush and Byron Howard and Yvette Marino. And so those are the nominees. But Nolan, again, what's the shoe-in?
If it's not K-pop Demon Hunters, we riot.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see any of the other four.
I didn't either. And I'd only heard of 2 of the other 4.
Yep.
Before
I had not heard of Little Amele or the character of Rain. And that was the only one I hadn't heard of. I did hear of Arco, Elio, and Zootopia 2, obviously. But K-pop Demon Hunters was the only one I got to catch up with, mainly because I knew it was going to be nominated. As soon as people started talking about it, it was too popular to not be nominated.
Yeah.
And I would be baffled if another movie walks away with this one. I think it has to go to K-pop Demon Hunters.
I can't imagine it. And after the cultural impact the film has had, after the way that Netflix had to fight to get the nomination actually secured, it's obvious to me. And I think it's probably obvious to most people who have kept up with movies in the past year or even just see the list of the nominations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, well put. I think that it's K-pop Demon Hunters. There's really this is why we call it a shoe-in, because there's really no further discussion. Nope. This next one, some people might say maybe we're getting a little too sure of ourselves, but I really do feel like it's a shoe-in, and this is for the original song. And the nominees are from a movie called Dear Me, which is Diane Warren she's the one who did the music and the lyrics. And you have Golden, which is of the K-pop Demon Hunter K-pop band. And then you have I Lied to You from Sinners, which of course is that shot, the winner of probably the decade, possibly the shot of the decade, if you think
quite possibly.
Whether you love or hate the movie Sinners, that scene sticks out. It sticks out. So it's a fantastic song, but I do think it's overshadowed even by the camera work, which is why we think there's a different shoe-in. Then you have Sweet Dreams of Joy, and that's from Viva Verde. And then you have Train Dreams, which is also the title track, Train Dreams by Nick Cave. And so our belief, again, as we mentioned before, with K-pop Demon Hunters being a shoe-in for animated feature, for more reasons than it was the best animated feature film, it's the cultural impact.
Mm-hmm.
And if you walked outside of
it at number one,
say that again.
The weeks that it spent at number one across music charts.
If you walked outside, if you talked to somebody, if you got in your car, you heard Golden. And odds are, even if you don't love it, you do kind of like it. You do appreciate it a little bit. And it has this very catchy hook. It's got a lot of, it's coming at the most pivotal scene in the movie. It is a phenom in and of itself. And when people look at, there was a song, I believe it was Natu Natu, when RRR was nominated for original song. It was one of those moments where it was like, ooh, yeah, this is going to be the clear winner. And so with Golden, it feels that same way. There's no way Golden doesn't walk away with the original song, in my opinion.
No, again, there's other songs in there that I love. I love "I Lied to You." It's a wonderful song. I liked "Train Dreams." It's also one that perfectly fits the film. But yeah, Golden is just the culture, the way that it is swept across music industry, the way that it's swept across film, across just cultures, the way that it's brought such a response from people, both positive and negative. I think that Golden is it's got to be the obvious winner.
It's the pick, for sure. And the last one we'll talk about that are, we believe, shoe-ins is the category of sound. And there's a number here where I can see 2, maybe 3 of why they were nominated. The other ones I'm a little like, okay, possibly. But the first one is for sure one that I think, makes sense it's there. That's F1. That's Gareth John, Al Nelson, Gwendolyn Yates, Whittle, Gary Rizzle, and Juan Peralta. And then you have Frankenstein. And that's Greg Chapman, Nathan Robati, Nelson Ferreira, Christian Cook, and Brad Zorn. Then you have One Battle After Another, Jose Antonio Garcia, Christopher Scarabozio, and Tony Villaflor. You have Sinners, Chris Welker, Welker, Benjamin A. Burt, Felipe Pacheco, Brandon Proctor, and Steve Brodeker. And then you have Surat, which is Amanda Villavije, Leia Casanovas, and Yasminas Praderas. And that also makes sense if you know anything about Surat, even though this was one I was unfortunate I wasn't able to catch up with. It's about a rave in the desert. Of course, it should be nominated for sound. So I believe it's only nominated twice, and I believe Surat is only nominated for sound and international feature film. But what's the shoe in here, Nolan? I don't know how you give it to anyone other than...
Yeah, love it or hate it, this is F1.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a movie about Formula One race cars going zoom zoom around the track. It's got to go. It's got to go to F1.
Yeah. You have the innovative filmmaking, again, from Joseph Kosinski, and the way the film sounds is what is going to keep you invested in the film from beginning to end. Absolutely. And now, of course, there's going to be scenes where they're not always in a car. But if you don't feel at least slightly an adrenaline rush from the way those cars sound, especially as a man, I feel like.
You might want to check your pulse.
Yeah, you might want to check your pulse, because it wouldn't make much sense for you not to feel, the same one. I don't know if this is the same team that worked with Joseph Kosinski on Top Gun Maverick, but it's also one of those things where you look at it and it's like, maybe you go with Surat here. I would be baffled if they did. I think that would be a bit surprising, given F1's also nominated for Best Picture. I do think F1 walks away with I think it walks away with the win. So those are our shoe-in categories. So I'm also mentioning these names because these are people that worked and poured their heart out into these movies. And I would hate to be someone who worked and poured my heart out into these movies and some white guy didn't at least try to pronounce my name, you know? So
I'm glad it's you and not me.
yeah, and you know what? I'm trying my best. Of course, I'm probably mispronouncing it, and that's unfortunate. But I am trying. So, but yeah, so those are our shoe-in categories. As we continue, we're going to have some more brief discussions on some of these other categories that maybe we feel a little bit more comfortable diving into. Some that could be up in the air. These will also include, from what I understand, our picks and predictions after what we've seen, how we feel about the movie, and the nominees, in case there's some that we won't get to talk about in the Best Picture category as we finish at the end. So, but yeah, so moving on, we have the first category we're going to be talking about is cinematography.
So, and from here, just to mention, from here on out, this could be a potentially spoiler discussion.
Yes.
We are going to go into detail with these films. Now, the films that are nominated in the Best Picture category, because there are numerous overlaps, those we won't talk about the film until we get to the Best Picture. But if there's one or two of these films that this is the only category they're nominated in, or this is the primary category they're nominated in, we will enter into spoiler discussion, possibly with those titles. So
absolutely,
this is your warning. The Oscars are Sunday, so if you've not caught these films, you're probably not going to be able to catch them. But this is your spoiler warning going here forward.
Yes, thank you for that.
So the nominees for cinematography are...
Okay, they are Frankenstein, which is Dan Laustsen. And then you have Marty Supreme, which is Darius Kanji. I'm so glad he was nominated for this. I really am digging the Darius Kanji camera work. One Battle After Another, which is Michael Bauman. Sinners is Autumn Durald Arkapaw. And then, or Arcapa, not sure. And then you have Train Dreams, which is Adolfo Veloso. And what do you think, Nolan, about these nominees? I believe you were able to catch up with 4 of the 5.
Yes, so big glaring hole in the homework that I set out to do before this discussion is I was unfortunately not able to catch either Marty Supreme or The Secret Agent. So in categories where one or both of those films are nominated, I'm not going to be able to speak with any kind of certainty, but that's all right because you were the A+ student and you completed all your homework. So I'll definitely be relying on you
as
for
much homework as I could. There's some actors, actresses, some feature films I didn't catch, but
but for the Big Ten, the ones that are up for Best Picture that nominate or dominate most of these categories. So looking at the categories of cinematography, you've got some great picks here. I mean, Frankenstein is a beautiful Gothic masterpiece of visual delight. It is creepy. It is dripping in the atmosphere and the visual of what Del Toro does best, and that's that Gothic beauty, that run-down, kind of slimy, grimy feel and texture. You've got Sinners, which is just a blazing wildfire of a film. Even especially you think about that Sinner dance scene that we've just talked about so much already on this podcast as what you described as maybe the moment of the decade. For that alone, the cinematography and the one shot that camera just takes all the way through is absolutely gorgeous. You've got the chaoticness of One Battle After Another. But I think the one of these that I have to pick, my personal pick for this, despite how I feel about the film, because it was a film I enjoyed, but it wasn't one that was actually as high as I thought it would be. But it's just, the cinematography here is gorgeous. It's soothing. It's transportive. It's calming. and it's also violent. And it's brutal at times, just like the nature that it takes place in. And of course, I'm talking about Train Dreams from Adolfo Velso.
Yeah, I've been back and forth on this one. I 100% can see the love for Train Dreams, and it would be my number 2. Train Dreams is one of the best looking films of this past year. It obviously invokes a lot of Malick, as far as the way it captures nature, as far as its gentle cinematography goes. I mean, there are multiple scenes where you're just sitting staring at a forest and you can feel the emotion it's wanting to evoke from you. And it doesn't feel pushy. It doesn't feel like, hey, feel this, feel this, feel this. It feels like it's just there. And I think that, for my money, is one of the best feelings you can have when watching a film. And obviously, you know, I'm much higher on this film than you are.
Right.
And as we continue to talk more in the Best Picture category, I will say, as kind of a taste for how I feel about Frankenstein, is I thought Frankenstein suffered from the Netflixification of Guillermo del Toro. I believe that if the world felt more real, as opposed to a lot of CGI, because there is so much CGI in this film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of visual effects that are a little bit like wonky. And I don't mean that in the whimsical way that Guillermo del Toro usually does. I mean that in the that looked pushed and rushed for time way.
In a 2.5 hour film.
Yes, for a 2.5 hour film. So it's like when you... Now, of course, when you're saying, I think it's more of a discussion for me, the things I did appreciate about Frankenstein is going to be more in the production design of Frankenstein. One Battle After Another, of course, has, I think, also incredible cinematography. I feel like all of these films are possibly rightfully nominated. But I ultimately go with Marty Supreme as my favorite cinematography choice. That is my pick for cinematography, because the way Darius Kanji is able to move effortlessly through this world with Marty, the way it invokes that hustler's ambition, but also the grimy feeling of real life of New York City in the 50s, which of course, again, will come in the production design conversation. I think Darius Kanji shot 2 of the best looking movies last year in Marty Supreme and Eddington, which of course it was, you know, I don't know if you can call it snubbed, because I don't think a lot of people would ultimately say Eddington was snubbed, but
it's okay, Brady.
I know. It was my favorite film of last year to a point. There have been a couple that have come and dismantled it, but it was my favorite film for a long time of last year. And it's still one of the best I saw. But Marty Supreme, I think, takes the cake for me as far as my picks. As far as predictions go, Nolan, which one do you think would win cinematography?
Yeah, I am definitely, I'm shooting in the dark to think that through. But I think that... I think Train Dreams has an uphill battle in a lot of its categories that it's nominated in, unfortunately. But I think for production design, Marty Supreme could be a strong contender. I think that's one that has strength throughout its nominations. I also think Sinners is one that could be, because of that central dance scene and the way that just the fire is captured and the movement and the dance and the song. I think that Autumn did a excellent job working with Dr. Ryan Coogler to create this world that Sinners inhabits. So I'm gonna go out on a limb, make a bold prediction, and I'm gonna say that this goes, of the films that I've seen, I'm gonna cast my vote for Sinners. Okay,
that's your prediction. I think that's something we didn't mention at the top, or I don't remember if you mentioned it or not. Sinner set a record this year for most nominations at the Oscars in history, which is 16. And
16 nominations.
when One Battle After Another also was nominated for 13, you would think, 13 pretty much is shoo-in. And then you hear 16, and you're like, what did they do better than One Battle After Another in that regard, so much so, right?
Right.
I ultimately, as much as I would love to give it to Train Dreams or Marty Supreme, I am also going to go with the Sinners for cinematography. I think that while it may not be, it's a well-made movie. It looks fantastic. It's not one of those that you're like, wow, this movie is ugly. But I also am not thinking, other than that single shot, about Sinners for its cinematography.
Right.
But I do think I'm less so thinking about One Battle After Another for its cinematography. Other than that shot at the end with the cars.
Yep.
That scene is hypnotic. But I ultimately will go, my prediction is also going to be Sinners.
All right. That was easy.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure where that was going to land, but that made it nice and easy for us.
Well,
So
and one of the things...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was ready to keep moving. So if you've got more on the cinematography, let's do it.
Perfect. No, I think it's not necessarily on the cinematography, just our nominations as a whole. We might have some information about what happened at the BAFTAs, what happened at SAG, what happened in the other award ceremonies, but we're not studying the game like that. We're interested in the Oscars, especially this year. We do feel like there's a lot of warrant for what has been nominated, but most of the time, I think our predictions and our picks are going to be obviously personal preference, but our predictions are going to be more of a vibe of how we feel the Academy is kind of leaning. And so with that in mind, we move into our film editing. And the nominees for film editing are F1, which is Stephen Mirioni. You have Marty Supreme, which is Ronald Braunstein and Josh Safdie, self-edited. And then you have One Battle After Another, which is Andy Jurgensen. You have Sentimental Value, which is Olivier Boucoute. And then you have Sinners, which is Michael P. Schaffer. So, Nolan, for picks, I'll go ahead and have you start again. For your pick, your feeling towards the ones you saw, because you saw every one aside from Marty Supreme.
Right.
Which one would you say is your pick and probably most deserving for editing?
Yeah. For me, this was another one that was pretty clear. You could argue maybe even that it has to do with my personal preference of the films, which I'm not going to say that can't come into play, because obviously it can. But really, as I was watching F1, the thing that really stood out to me in this film, other than the sound, was the editing. Just the fast-pacedness of the cars and of the race, the way that the camera moves within the car, outside of the car. I think that if F1 won the Oscar for film editing, it would feel well-deserved. So even though there are other films on this list that I prefer, I think F1 would be not only my personal pick, but I think the one that my vote for what the Academy will go with as well.
Okay, so F1 is your pick and prediction.
Yes.
I obviously believe that's a very fair decision. I think F1 makes a lot of sense for that. I am ultimately going to go probably the same route and pick F1 as my pick and prediction. The more I have looked at it, of course, I would love to see Marty Supreme or Sentimental Value, because sometimes I think a lot of people forget that editing can also be in the subtlety.
Yeah.
And Sentimental Value does subtle editing really well. However, it's like when you give the award, right? When you give the award, you're not giving the award to the subtle actor. You're not.
Nope.
You're not giving the award to the subtle film. As
Not
much
all.
as we would love for that to be the case, you're just not going to. And F1, which we'll learn, it was not my favorite of the best pictures. It was my least favorite of the best pictures. But I do think after looking over these again, after thinking more in depth about what worked for me in F1, it's the editing and the sound.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised we're aligned on that. I do
No.
think with the other ones, they are all well edited. Again, I believe truly most of the time the Academy gets it right, at least this year, as far as who they nominate. Who wins, they don't always get it right. Okay, looking at you, Crash, 2005. But we're,
Wow.
but the I do believe the editing here, all the nominees are fair. They're all fair, and I do think that F1 is well deserving of the editing and the sound award. I do think they'll give it to F1. I do think they love the idea of giving it to a fast action. They love to do something cool and give it to the cool movie, quote unquote. So that's also my pick and prediction.
And it is a cool movie. It is a very cool movie.
Yes, at the end of the day, you can, like, for sure. Yes, I would agree with that to an extent, that it is a cool movie. I think it maybe even suffers from trying to be too cool, which, of course, we'll talk more whenever we do our Best Picture discussion and how we feel about each movie's feeling. So, all right. Moving on to our next one, maybe an unsung hero, and that is production design. And
the nominees are?
Yeah, the nominees are Frankenstein, which is Tamara Deverell, and set decoration Shane Vo. Then you have Hamnet, which is Fiona Crombie and Alice Felton. Marty Supreme, which is Jack Fisk and Adam Willis. And then you have One Battle After Another, Florencia Martin and Anthony Carlino. And Sinners, you have Hannah Beachler and Monique Champagne. So, I will go ahead and start on the production design conversation.
Go ahead.
I will say this. I don't believe One Battle After Another belongs here. I think One Battle After Another does a lot of things right. And I will remember One Battle After Another.
Say that on the internet.
Yeah, I can say what I want.
Talk bad about One Battle After Another.
That's true. You really can't, right? Despite all its glaring flaws. But what I will say about the production design for One Battle After Another, I am not going to be thinking about the studio, the Taekwondo studio, or karate. Is it judo? I don't even remember. Right? I'm not going to be thinking about. I'm even trying to think of like the cages at the beginning. I'm not going to be thinking about their home, right? I don't think about production design when I think One Battle After Another. I think that should be fair to say. I think if anybody is sitting here like vying for One Battle After Another because they think they did a better job on production design than Frankenstein, Sinners, and Hamnet, okay, I think we've got some glazing going on. I think that we've officially stepped over the line of rationale, and we have straight up just went into Paul Thomas Anderson can do no wrong. And that is not a diss to the One Battle After Another production design. That is just to say it is in a room of titans and juggernauts.
It is.
I come down to two. I like Frankenstein and I like Sinners, but I don't think they hold a candle to Hamnet or Marty Supreme. I think the world that you live in with Hamnet is it feels like literature. It feels like if you were to sit down and read War and Peace, or you were to sit down and read The Tragedy of Hamlet, you would be transported to these small buildings to the grassy landscapes to the why can I not picture it? I can picture it. I just can't think of what it's called. It's in London where they go and perform, and uh, maybe the Dome. I can't remember. It's blanking. I'm blanking.
The theater, yeah.
The theater, but yeah, I felt it felt very lived in. Everybody there made the world feel very, very much exactly what I think Chloe Zhao and company were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I do love Hamnet. But Marty Supreme, dog. Marty Supreme has got that underground vibe. It is very much a period piece that it takes place in the 1950s. I mean, you have, and of course, I don't even know at this point if it was nominated for costume design. It probably should be. But, I mean, what they're wearing, where they're at, what they're doing, where they go, how the world, again, feels very lived in. And I will remember for the ping pong halls. I will remember for the New York City like street life. I will remember the used car lot. Like these are things I'm going to be thinking about. Penn Jillette's run down home. I'm going to be thinking about those things for production design. With all that being said, my pick and prediction. My pick is Hamnet. And my prediction is Sinners. No, my prediction's Frankenstein. I will change my pick. My pick is Hamnet. My prediction is Frankenstein. I think Frankenstein does a great job with all the things that aren't computer generated. The sets they built, they look fantastic. It feels very gothic. 100% correct on that. That Guillermo del Toro, that's his bread and butter. Mm-hmm. So Frankenstein is my prediction for production design.
Okay, well, I'm gonna actually go with your first comment. I'm gonna say Hamnet is my pick for all the reasons you said. It's just it is an absolutely transportive film. The beauty of, you think that opening shot of that giant knotted tree, that gnarly tree with the roots hanging out here and buried there and angled at this, and then you've got Agnes there just asleep in the grass. And that very opening, how it goes down that tree to reveal her just sleeping there in the woods. So my pick is Hamnet. And while I do think Hamnet has perhaps a chance as an Oscar darling type film, I'm going to go with Sinners. I think that Sinners felt more practical in its design, especially with the barn sequence and the barn burning down and just the world that they created there, the desert barrenness of the South, the sunrise the next morning after the events had all taken place in the film. I think that this is a very easy one for Sinners to take, largely because, to me, Sinners does have that more real feel than Frankenstein does. Frankenstein feels almost maybe too pretty, for lack of a better word, in its design. It's gothic and it's haunting, but it's got this sense of like it's been washed over clean. Where Sinners feels very polished. Where Sinners feels very grounded in the reality of what's presented there. So I think my pick and my hope is Hamnet, but my prediction is Sinners.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I agree with you 100%. The only reason I think it'll go towards Frankenstein is because Frankenstein has a number of nominees and nominations, and I think that if it's going to win. I think it's going to win 2. I think it's ultimately going to win 2. Production design being one of them, and one we'll talk about here in a little bit. That I think I just don't know, despite if I've seen them or not, I don't know that the Academy is going to go against the Del Toro pick.
Yeah, that would be different.
As cool as it would be to see, Del Toro has done his time. He's put in the work. he did a movie about one of the most popular Gothic stories of all time. And for the most part, it feels like 1855 to 1870s. So,
All right.
moving on.
Great.
We're going to discuss score.
Yes.
And the nominees for score are Begonia with Jerskin Fendrix. Love that name. And then Frankenstein, which is Alexander Desplat, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's worked with Wes Anderson on a few films. I could be wrong, but I believe he has. Hamnet, which is Max Richter, which of course that is On the Nature of Daylight, and that's the final song at the theater. And then you have One Battle After Another, Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead fame and a longtime collaborator with Paul Thomas Anderson. And then you have Sinners, which is Ludwig Göransson. So I'll lead this one as well, and I will say my pick for score would be Begonia. That would be my personal pick. If any of them could win score, I would pick Begonia. It is so contrasted to everything that's happening in that movie that I can still feel the unsettling nature of it. I can still feel the stings. I can hear the keys going back and forth. I can feel it. I love the score of Begonia. It's one of the many things that made Begonia work so well for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that it fits into the quirky tone of Yorgos Lanthimos. I think it fits into the quirky tone of the film, what it's actually trying to do, where it ends up leading. I think that the score for Begonia is, I'm so glad it's nominated, if for nothing else other than just to be nominated. That being said, I think Ludwig Göransson gets his third Oscar. I think with Sinners, I don't see them giving it to anyone other than Sinners. Johnny Greenwood's cool, Max Richter cool, Alexander Desplat cool, but it's Ludwig Göransson. I'm like certain that Sinners wins score.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. The score for Begonia, as you've talked about it, I remember it more. And of course, score is something that you've always had more of an ear for than I have myself. But Sinners is the score that I so remember. Just because Sinners is nothing without its score.
Without its music, right? That's
without the music of the film, there is no Sinners. The music is the lifeblood and also the death of the characters in the film. So I think both for pick and for prediction, I'm going to go also with Göransson for Sinners.
Sinners. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, Sinners is, again, nominated 16 times. I don't see a world where they don't leave with at least half.
Oh, yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel. I mean, it could happen. It 100% could happen. They're going up against one battle after another. Like, as far as down the line, those are the two toughest competitors.
Yeah.
So that so far is, I think Sinners makes a lot of sense for Best Original Score. I will not be upset if it wins Best Original Score, but man, I wish it was going to Begonia because that would just be too cool. And that I would love. It would, I know it has nothing to do with it, but it would be redemption for me for the Challenger score. The Challenger score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. That being snubbed was one of the biggest snubs of the 2020s out of any category.
That I can agree with you because I do remember that score.
That score is just
and that's
electric.
Been a year or two since watching that film.
Man, what? Yeah, 100% what a score. All right. We have two more categories we're going to briefly discuss before we get into the big categories. And the first one of those is going to be the international feature film. So these are the nominees. I have got the pleasure of seeing 3 of them out of 5. So I'll do more of the discussion on them. But you can talk a little bit to what you've seen, what you know. But the first one is Brazil, and that is The Secret Agent. The second one is France, and It Was Just an Accident. Then you have Norway, which is Sentimental Value. Spain, Surat. And Tunisia, The Voice of Hind Rajab. The three I got to see were The Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, and Sentimental Value. I did not get to see Surat or The Voice of Hind Rajab. For my personal pleasure, I loved Sentimental Value. And Sentimental Value, the only issue I see, and this is more of a political thing than it even is, and not even like political, liberal, conservative, political, like Oscar political. It, at times, does not feel international enough. I think there's a lot of English in this film, and I think it's very European, but it at times just does not feel international enough when it's compared to It Was Just an Accident and The Secret Agent. It does have the most nominations out of those three, out of these five. But my pick would be Sentimental Value, despite, because whether you like it or not, whether it feels international enough, it is international. It's filmed in Norway. I would pick Sentimental Value. My prediction is A Secret Agent. That is my prediction for international feature film. So pick Sentimental Value, prediction, Secret Agent.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm not going to go ahead and do a pick prediction for this category because I've seen one. I've seen Sentimental Value. I did not get to catch The Secret Agent, but I think that makes sense. That it's going to come down to one of those two.
I agree.
And the reason that I say that is because both of those were also nominated for Best Picture. So I think that it will be one of those two films that take the international feature.
And while It Was Just an Accident won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, I just don't think it has the legs to carry it past Secret Agent and or Sentimental Value. And while I would hope that they would give it to Sentimental Value, I just feel in my soul that it's going towards The Secret Agent. So I think Wagner Moura has done a great job on his campaign as far as promoting the movie. I think he's done excellent. So I think he's one of the reasons I watched the movie to begin with. So to not give him his credit where credit's due would be a disgrace to him. And I think that he's not only done a good job for him in the actor category, which we'll see, but I think he's done a fantastic job as far as promoting the movie and its values. All right, to our last brief discussion. This will be more of a discussion that Nolan leads.
Yeah.
But here are the nominees.
For makeup and hairstyling, we have...
Makeup and hairstyling, yes.
Frankenstein.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Frankenstein with Mike Hill, Jordan Samuel, and Siona Fury. I don't know why I'm trying to mention these names. There's no way I'm going to get them.
Yeah. Kokuo? Oh, you got it.
Kokuo with Kyoko Tokawa, Naomi Hibino, and Tashidi Nishimatsu. Sinners with Ken Diaz, Mike Fontaine, and Shunika Terry. The Smashing Machine, Kazuhiro, Glenn Griffin, and Bjorn Reben. And The Ugly Stepsister, Thomas Fuldenberg and Anne Catherine Sauerberg. And I have seen 4 of these 5 nominees. I did not caught Kokuo, so I can't speak to that film. But my pick, and really, I don't know if I can say my prediction. I would hope this would be the prediction, but I don't know that it would be true. But my pick, seeing 4 of these 5 films, is The Ugly Stepsister.
Okay.
And I think, to me, this should be a shoo-in pick. No pun intended. If you know the story of The Ugly Stepsister, it is about one of Cinderella's ugly stepsisters. This is a film that relies very heavy on makeup. Makeup more so than hair, but also hair plays a part because this is a body horror type film. And actually, now that I'm saying this, I'm realizing there's no way this film will win. And if it does, it's definitely the underdog of these 5 films. But it leans, for my personal taste, The Ugly Stepsister leaned more into the gross out than it did the actual body horror. But just some of the things that that Cinderella's stepsister goes through in this film, and the way that they had to work the makeup for everything that happens to her, everything that she does to herself. You've got, obviously, it's Cinderella. You know the story of the Brothers Grimm, where the stepsisters cut off their toes and their heels to try to fix the glass slipper. There's a pretty pivotal part of this film revolves around a nose job, that the sister was getting all these things, trying to make herself more beautiful for the prince so that he would notice her. It's also a foreign film. I forget without looking up where this film came from, but for my money, even though it was a film that didn't lean as much into the body and more into the gross, for me, The Ugly Stepsister should be the obvious pick.
Okay.
Now, where I think this will go is Frankenstein.
That's also my
I think
prediction.
that it's going to be, I think it's a shoo-in for Frankenstein. And I find that unfortunate because as interesting as the hair and the makeup is for Frankenstein, I remember as I was watching this film, the way they made the monster look, the way they did the makeup for Jacob Elordi, he looked too pretty to me. He looked like the kind of monster that the girls they'd want to get with. He didn't feel.
Look at the story.
That's true.
So...
Yes, it definitely leans into, as Del Toro does, the woman and the monster, right? That's a classic Del Toro trope. But I just remember that was one of the things for me that kind of took me out of the story of Frankenstein, was the makeup looked too pretty. He looked too attractive. Whereas The Ugly Stepsister, it goes there. And it just gets into the brutality. And I think the talent that it took to make the brutality of the makeup, for me, in my opinion, that outweighs the talent of the patchwork Jacob Elordi. But I think both of them were incredibly talented. I think, in my mind, these are the top two of the nominees. But I think it's going to go to Frankenstein. I can't see it going anywhere else.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right pick too. I think it's the right prediction. I have to just go with that. That's the only one I saw out of that category is Frankenstein. I didn't get a chance to catch up with the other ones.
You saw Sinners.
Oh, was Sinners one of them?
Yeah, Sinners is one of the 5. So you saw 2 of the 5.
So 2 of the 5. But yeah,
it's still
I know
Frankenstein. But
yeah, Frankenstein, I can 100% see where you're coming from. I look at sort of I look past even just Jacob Elordi, and I look at when Dr. Frankenstein is actually curating and working on the body parts. That's what really works for me in Frankenstein, is those practical effects that he does with the body. And whether they're practical or not, they look very practical.
Right.
So that to me is a job well done. And I do think
if we're including that in the makeup and the hair, then for sure that certainly elevates Frankenstein. I guess I saw those more as puppets or props that they crafted instead of.
It's still makeup, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure which one it actually was. If that was an actor that they crafted into those, then job well done. I am happy to be wrong. So
it's going to Frankenstein though.
It is.
There's no really any real argument. So, but it does make me want to watch The Ugly Stepsister, as I like gross out horror stuff. That stuff's always interesting.
It's worth a watch. It is worth a watch. Like I said, it leaned more into the gross than it did the body horror than I was kind of hoping for. But it's an interesting spin on the Cinderella story, for sure.
All right. Well, now we move into the bigger categories, and we're going to be starting with actors in a supporting role.
Yep.
Here are the actors: Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another, Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein, Delroy Lindo in Sinners, Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård, Sentimental Value. I will keep this quick. My pick and prediction is Sean Penn. I don't see how it goes to any of the other ones. I think if Delroy Lindo gets it, that's really cool. I think if Stellan Skarsgård gets it, that's really cool. Benicio del Toro, really cool. Jacob Elordi, pretty cool. It's Sean
We
Penn.
went down in level there.
Yeah, he does a fine job. But I
No,
think,
I'm with you. I agree with you.
and I think at the end of the day, I don't think Jacob Elordi does a bad job at all as Frankenstein, as far as a unique rendition of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. But he's not Boris Karloff, and there isn't that discovery. And we'll talk more about it too. I mean, there's a time later on in Frankenstein in the movie where this man is using words I've never used in my life, and that's how he decides he's going to speak. I do think his movement is good. It doesn't evoke Frankenstein to me.
No.
It's more slimy. It's more agile.
It's a very pretty Frankenstein.
Yeah, of course. It's a fit Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It's a Frankenstein who looks like he never was really created. He just has always been this way. And that's cool. I don't necessarily dislike that, but it does take away, I think, from his performance. I do think Jacob Elordi does a good job. Don't get me wrong. Out of these 5, he does not deserve it. And that I do think One Battle After Another, Sean Penn, this is where I think the One Battle After Another starts to rear its head and starts to take home some of the Oscars they've been looking at. And I think it starts with Sean Penn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, One Battle After Another's double nominated here, right? You've got Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn giving perhaps 2 of the most memorable performances of the year.
100%.
And I can't argue with you. I liked Delroy Lindo. I mean, I loved everybody in Sinners, but I had to look up who he was to remember who he played in the film. So my pick, I'm actually going to be a little contrarian to you, but I'm also going to agree. My pick is Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another. But my prediction, I think I'm with you. I think this is going to go to Sean Penn. I think Sean Penn is more memorable is not the right word, but I think he's so revolting as a character. I think he has so many little nuances to what he does. His ticks, and his walk, and just the griminess of who he is, the way that you want to strangle him. I think he's one of the best parts of the film. He's the most disgusting part of the film, but he's certainly one of the most entertaining, for lack of better words, part of the films, along with Benicio del Toro. And that's why del Toro is my personal pick. But I think if this goes to Sean Penn, I'm not going to argue it.
Yeah, I walked out of One Battle After Another and told my friend Dylan, I was like, Sean Penn wins the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And of course, this is before the nominations even came out. You could just feel it in the air. Sean Penn got a role of a lifetime. And it's crazy. He's already won the Best Actor, I believe, at SAG and one other. And maybe the Globes, maybe. And he doesn't support the Oscars. He doesn't show up. So he's not showing up for any of these, which is so funny because you look at, you look at Marty Supreme and the campaign Timothée Chalamet went on, and it's like, you know what? He may not win the Oscar, and he did everything he could to try and win with his campaign. And what's funny is Sean Penn may do nothing, and I think it's a clean sweep. I don't think anyone voted for anyone else. I think Sean Penn
You don't think so?
cleared. I think he cleared the ballot, and so as impressive as Stellan Skarsgård his performances because of the fact that he had a stroke and he had an earpiece, someone feeding him lines, and he would have to then hear that. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that. No.
Yes, Stellan Skarsgård had a stroke, and he had an earpiece where someone had to feed him lines for the movie that he then had to interpret and act. Imagine that. Imagine how difficult that would be. And while people might call it a cop out, like, well, he's getting his lines fed to him. It's like, but he's then having to interpret it the way the actor needs to interpret it. after
Right.
hearing someone's already rendition of it. So while that is maybe the more impressive
Wow.
technical performance, Sean Penn still had the performance of a lifetime. Every actor wants the role that Sean Penn got to have in One Battle After Another, and it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. It will definitely be one of his big roles for sure. And as much as I loved Stellan Skarsgård in Sentimental Value, and I did, um, I think to beat any of these American actors, which is kind of a bummer to say, but thinking about the Oscars, they feel very American. 9 times out of 10, of course, you've got your exceptions, but I think for him to beat these American actors and definitely to beat Sean Penn, I don't see it happening. I definitely think Sean Penn goes. He walks away with this, whether he walks away as the general or as Sean Penn is yet to be seen.
He might not even be there.
He may not even be there. That's true.
So, but yeah, I think I think the prediction's right. I think we're both right on that. I do think Sean Penn walks away, like he takes it home. So, moving forward, I don't know if you have it pulled up, but we were going to do the actresses in a supporting role.
Yes.
And if you want to, you can go ahead and read the actresses in a supporting role.
Absolutely. The nominees are Elle Fanning in Sentimental Value, Inga Isidaughter Elias in Sentimental Value, Amy Madigan in Weapons, Woonmi, I see why you gave me these names now, Musaku in Sinners, and Tiana Taylor in One Battle After Another.
Yeah. Well, why don't you start with your picks and predictions for this one?
Yeah, let's go for it. So, to me, there's a clear pick in this category. It might surprise you. I don't think it will. I think the one of the two will surprise you. But there's also ones I'm like, I think would be cool. And then there's the one that I think will probably win. So the role that I think would be cool to see win is Amy Madigan for Weapons.
Okay.
I think that would be cool to see her win because Weapons is a very clear horror film. And
very cool.
horror gets snubbed at the Oscars. That being said, horror gets snubbed at the Oscars, so I don't think Amy Madigan has a chance.
Until Sinners.
That's, you know what? That's really true because that is very much a horror type film. So maybe
Dominant
this is
horror.
a year. Right. So maybe this is a year. Maybe they'll make up for the Substance snubbing last year and Amy Madigan will get it this year. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be cool to see her win. But I don't think she has a chance. My pick for the actress in a supporting role is Inga for Sentimental Value.
Excellent pick.
I just absolutely, and we'll talk more maybe when we talk about the film. But Inga was one that, based on even just my life and my experiences, I could connect to Inga in ways that I could not connect to any of these other characters. So for me, she is my pick. Unfortunately, again, foreign films and foreign actors and actresses having an uphill climb at the Oscars, I don't think she stands a chance. If she does win, I would be so overjoyed, but I don't think she will. My fear, and I say fear carefully, but fear is the word, is that this is going to go to Tiana Taylor. For One Battle After Another. Now, if I had to pick outside of Inga and outside of the foreign realm, I would really want Woonmi to win it, Musaku, because I just think she gave an incredibly memorable performance in Sinners. But I think this one will end up going to Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another.
Okay, I think that pick and prediction makes a lot of sense. I agree with you on the pick. Inga Ibsdottir would be my pick. Good grief. It's a performance that just sneaks up on you. Mm-hmm. You don't feel it coming. You do not sense that she's about to outact Renate Runcie.
Yep.
Which I believe is how you pronounce her name. But in my opinion, she does. And it's not even close. No. And I think that they both give amazing performances. But she is the one that I leave thinking about.
Well, she's the heart of the film. She holds
is.
everybody together. She's there struggling to hold her falling apart family together. She
And
really
you
is
know,
the
Elle
glue.
Fanning. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And you know, Elle Fanning, she gives also a
She's
fantastic
fantastic.
performance. She was
I
unbelievable.
really saw this film, or this film first came on my radar because of Elle Fanning,
Mm.
because of my adoration for her as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that even more speaks to Inga's performance. To pick her over Fanning, it's
She
easy
deserved
for
it.
me, which is crazy, but
So,
it's Inga all the way.
so I'm between two
Okay,
for prediction. I'm also between Teyana Taylor because I think that her performance, while I do not love it, is one of those that starts and permeates throughout the film. Her character is felt through the other members.
Yeah.
And that is arguably a hard thing to do. That is one of those where it's like you have to act so much in such a little time that your role still matters throughout the remainder of the film. And I think she does just that.
Yeah.
For better or worse. My prediction is Amy Madigan.
Really?
And the reason I believe that is because you have Wunmi Mosaku and you have Teyana Taylor. One Battle and Sinners.
Mm.
I think they cancel each other out and it goes to Amy Madigan.
Interesting.
I really do believe that. And the reason I believe Amy Madigan walks away with it too is because Weapons was arguably out of these. I mean, sentimental value wasn't quite as mass appeal.
Right.
But I do think Weapons had more mass appeal than Sinners in One Battle. And while I do think they both
I would agree with that.
I think all three of them had crazy mass appeal. I think Weapons had more. And I do think the reason you remember Weapons is because of Amy Madigan.
Oh, there's no doubt.
You picture the red hair and the glasses and the lipstick, and you picture her she got the role in Weapons that Sean Penn got in One Battle After Another, which also influences my decision. They both got to have that fun role they could just really dig their teeth into and do whatever they wanted. And I think she walks away with it. I really do. That is my prediction.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. If Amy Madigan walks away with that Oscar, I'm not going to complain. In fact, I might celebrate a little bit. Of the three American films nominated, I think she is the one that I would probably be the most excited if she won.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm excited about Amy Madigan. I think she really has a chance, and I really would love to see, because I don't even think it's an upset, because I really do love her role in Weapons a lot. I don't like it as much as Inga, but I do think that she would be my second.
Yeah.
Amy Madigan would be my second, and she is my ultimate prediction.
Okay.
So, moving on, we have actors in a leading role, or actor in a leading role. The nominees are Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme, hence the jacket, had to rep just a little bit. Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another. Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon. Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. And Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent. So, my pick and prediction. Despite wearing the jacket, and as much as I love Timothy's performance in Marty Supreme, my pick and my prediction is Michael B. Jordan for Sinners. That is who I think ultimately leaves with the actor in a leading role. I believe that purely based on vibes. I don't have any big reason as to why I think Michael B. Jordan is going to walk away with it.
Mm-hmm.
He is my favorite performance out of these five. I didn't get to see Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon, but He is my favorite performance out of the four that I saw. And it's crazy because I do believe Timothée Chalamet and Leonardo DiCaprio both do a great job in their respective films, but I just think Michael B. Jordan should take it. I really do. I think he deserves it. I think he's put in the time and the effort, and I think the fact that he plays essentially three roles, Smoke, Stack, and Stack as a vampire, I think that is pretty hard to do. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor, and I can't remember which brother it is, but I want to say Smoke doesn't have dimples, and Stack does.
Interesting.
And that the way they accomplished that is not CGI, but that Michael B. Jordan just smiled different. So that he would not have dimples, and then he would have dimples. And if that's true, that is ridiculous.
Give that man an Oscar.
He said he wore shoes that were too small for him when he was Stack because he needed to feel uncomfortable in his own skin. That is the makings of an Oscar winner on just the screen. So I think Michael B. Jordan deserves it. Timothée Chalamet won't be upset. I think he's a second. But that's my pick and prediction. I think the Academy is going to agree with me on that. I think Michael B. Jordan in Sinners takes it.
Well, that makes this an easy category to discuss. I've only seen two of these films, so it's not like I have a great deal. I know that Timothée Chalamet is an Oscar darling of an actor. He's one that you can always count on to be in the nominations or in the roles running. He's also got himself into a little bit of controversy here recently, but I don't think that'll have any play on his nomination or his win.
Ballots were cast before.
Yeah, it was already done by that point. Nobody cares. But I think it's got to be Michael B. Jordan. That's my pick and prediction. He was my top performance of last year, hands down. He's a basic pick, maybe, but I think just the amount of talent that Michael B. Jordan gives, and what you said, like you said, is essentially three roles. Sinners is not the same film without him. So Michael B. Jordan is my pick and my prediction for actor in the leading role.
And I do think that, Wagner Moura, he does also play three different roles in the Secret Agent. But he doesn't have to do what Michael B. Jordan has to do in Sinners. The fact that I forget that those aren't twins,
right?
That hook, line, and sinker, baby. It's like I don't know how you give it to anyone else. I think Timothée Chalamet did fantastic. He's my third favorite on that list. Second, he'd be my second pick as far as who I think could win. But I, over time, have grown to appreciate the Leonardo DiCaprio performance more
Really?
than the Timothée Chalamet performance.
Interesting.
And I love Marty Supreme. But I think that movie could work. I think it works for a number of reasons aside from Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
But moving forward, I'll have you go ahead and read the nominees for actress in a leading role.
Thanks, friend. So the actress in the leading role. No, I got it. Don't you worry. The actress in a leading role nominees are Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, Kate Hudson, Song Sung Blue, Renee Vinci in Sentimental Value, and Emma Stone in Begonia. And even just looking over this list, I got to see 4 of these 5 performances. Missed Song Sung Blue, but was able to catch up with all the other films post Oscar nom. And of course, you've got 4 stellar performances here. Performances that make these films. They really, really do. You've got Emma Stone back with Yorgos Lanthimos as an Oscar darling. I mean, Emma Stone has won 2 Oscars. She's won one of them with Yorgos in one of his films. So in Begonia, I mean, she is the Oscar darling of
Mhm.
this nominee list. So for that to go to her seems like a shoo-in. She's not my pick. I think she's great. I think that performance in that film is completely different without her. I
Mhm.
think the fact that, spoiler alert, Emma Stone is an alien is really not that surprising.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but my pick and my prediction for actress in a leading role, both might be kind of hot takes, but my pick is Renee Rinsby in Sentimental Value.
Okay.
And it's just, Nora is, I mean, I remember her name. I have thought
Mhm.
about Nora almost every day, if not every day, since watching
Mhm.
Sentimental Value late last week. I think that she completely steals the show from the first moment that she's on that stage at the beginning of the film and she screams out, "Here."
Mhm.
From that moment, and even before, she's commanding your attention. You're curious about her, about who Nora is. But the moment she screams, "Here," and those
Mhm.
lights start to flash, Nora hooked me. And
Okay.
of course, again, Sentimental Value was just an incredibly personal film for me to watch, which we may get into more. But seeing Nora as the oldest child of a divorce, um, when her parents split, when her father ran off and he left, and just seeing her and being the oldest child of a divorce when my parents split years and years ago, over a decade ago. Um, I could see so much of myself in Renee's performance of Nora.
Mhm.
I was able to connect with Nora and with her performance in a way that I haven't connected with an actor or a performance in quite some time.
Mhm.
Maybe in over a year. So
Mhm.
for me, she is my pick.
Okay.
I don't think she'll win.
Mhm.
I actually, and this might be a little bit of a controversial hot take, I actually think this could go to Jessie Buckley in Hamnet.
Okay.
I think Hamnet is an Oscar darling film, but I also think Hamnet is a beautiful film. And I think Jessie Buckley is the heart and soul of this film.
Mhm.
And I would be, as much as I would love to see Renee take it, I would be pleased as punch to see Jessie Buckley win for Hamnet. So I'm going to go with the Oscar darling and predict that she'll be the one that takes the Oscar.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you haven't been listening too much because Jessie Buckley is by far and large
Is she? Is she the hot
yeah,
pick? Okay,
she's the
great.
hot pick. Yeah,
Great.
Jessie Buckley. Jessie Buckley is my prediction. Um, and I've been back and forth on my pick.
Okay.
Jessie Buckley's been one of my picks. Rose Byrne
Mm-hmm.
has been my other one.
Yep, I knew that was coming.
She does something, and if I had legs, I'd kick you. That it doesn't feel where Jessie Buckley gets to stretch all the way out.
Mm-hmm.
Rose Byrne, just like her character in the movie, has to stretch all the way out, but like in a casket. She can't do everything she wants to do with the role because she just can't.
Right.
Because it would take you out of it.
Yeah.
In Hamnet, Jessie Buckley, I mean, she gets to do the screaming, she gets to do the crying, she gets to do the romance, she gets to do everything you can imagine, right?
Right.
She gets to do the grieving, she gets to do all of it. And the thing about Rose Byrne is she has to do all of it without getting to.
Mm-hmm.
She has to feel the grief, she has to feel the tightness of the world around her. And I think that Rose Byrne does something that is like seared into my mind as far as mom roles go. There's few that I've seen really capture the feeling of being an overwhelmed mother, especially in this day and age. So my pick would be Rose Byrne, but my prediction is Jessie Buckley.
Yeah. And Rose Byrne gives an incredible performance. I think for me, with Jessie Buckley, it just comes down to a preference of film.
Yeah.
I don't think that one of them is better than the other. I actually think Rose Byrne is very worthy to be nominated here.
Yes.
And I think if she won, I would have no qualms. But it definitely, for me, it really comes down to a preference of film. And that's why my prediction is Jessie Buckley.
And on top of it, Hamnet has multiple nominations.
Yeah.
If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You has the one.
Right. Which could
That
work
makes
in
me
his
think.
favor.
Yeah, it
but
could
also
it could
not.
work. And I picked Amy Madigan, with that being the only weapons nod.
Right.
But I just think it goes to Jessie Buckley. I don't think they give it to anyone else.
No.
So, with that being said, we move forward to adapted screenplay.
Yes.
And the nominees are Bugonia, which is by Will Tracy; Frankenstein, written by Guillermo del Toro; Hamnet, Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell; One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson; and Train Dreams, Clint Bentley and Greg Quidar. Or Queeter. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I'll be quick.
Okay.
The winner's One Battle After Another. That's my prediction. It's, in my opinion, I don't even think it's close as far as predictions go. Hamnet maybe could pull off the upset, but I don't see it happening. I think it's One Battle After Another. The only reason they give it to Hamnet over that is because of Hamlet, not Hamlet. They would maybe give it for Shakespeare. Train Dreams is my pick. Train Dreams is a movie that does everything that... When I watched this movie, I actually watched it on my birthday this past year. And you're watching a film about a man's life and the hardship that he goes through being a logger just outside of Idaho. And I mean, there's so many lines of dialogue that are so profound. So many moments where they just get to talk and you feel the weight of the world on their shoulders. And you have the last moment of the film, you might want to find something to hold on to. And it's right after his life flashes before his eyes. You might want to find something to hold on to. And it doesn't feel hokey. It doesn't feel out of place because he's in a plane and they're doing a turn. So it makes sense. So I am going with Train Dreams.
Okay.
That's my pick. Prediction: One Battle After Another.
That's exactly where I thought you would land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the prediction, I'm not arguing with you. It's One Battle After Another.
Yeah.
We all know it is. Whether it deserves to be or not is a whole nother discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's One Battle After Another.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my pick is Hamnet.
Okay, that makes sense. They're neck and neck for me.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think Hamnet could possibly pull an upset because, like I mentioned earlier, I think that Hamnet is very much an Oscar darling film. When you think of films that are made with the intent to be nominated for the Oscars. And I think Hamnet is an Oscar darling, but it's also a really good film. Like it's not, oh, we're making this for an award. This is a really good film that we have a passion for. We have a passion for this project. And part of it, too, is I think looking at Train Dreams versus Hamnet, other than just personal preference, I think that Train Dreams, for me, there's a lot of moments that it's the imagery that is what's captivating. It's the dialogue is so much more sparse, few and far between. Whereas Hamnet is so soaked in the words. Mm-hmm. And I also think about Shakespeare in Love, which won at the end, I believe it was the end of the 90s, early 2000s, actually won the Best Picture Oscar.
Yeah.
So there is a history of Shakespeare adaptations winning Best Picture, let alone screenplay and all of those things. So I think Hamnet does have the chance here. But I think it's going to go to One Battle After Another. I don't see any way around that.
Nope, that makes the most sense. All right, well, I'll go ahead and I'll read off these nominees, but I'll let you start with the picks.
Okay.
We're moving into original screenplay, and here are the nominees. Blue Moon, written by Robert Kaplow, directed by Richard Linklater. It Was Just an Accident, written by Jafar Panahi. Script collaborators were Nadir Saivar, Shadmir Rastin, Mindy Mahmoudin, or Mudayan. Also interesting note about It Was Just an Accident. Thank you. Probably mispronounced all of them, but I tried. Javar Panahi was arrested and imprisoned for a year after this film because he did anti-Iranian regime material in it. Anyway, just thought I would mention that. Then you have Marty Supreme, written by Ronald Bronstein and Josh Safdie. You have Sentimental Value, written by Eskil Vogt and Joachim Trier. And then you have Sinners, written by Ryan Coogler. So, Nolan, you've seen 2 of the 5.
Yes.
So,
I have.
Between the 2 that you've seen, and you can also predict if you think it falls out of these, which one you think wins and which one you would pick.
Okay. Well, this is where you're going to start seeing the pattern in my picks. My pick is Sentimental Value.
Okay.
It just is. That film struck a chord with me that no film has in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But of those 2, and I'm going to just stick to those 2 because that's what I know. I also think that this is probably the one. I think Marty Supreme might have a chance here. Just because of the weight of Josh Safdie and Timothy Chalamet and the material. I believe, is it based on a true story or is it completely original character?
Loosely based on an actual person, Marty Reisman.
Fair enough. Yeah. Loosely based kind of deal. I think it could have a chance, but I'm going to stick with the films I know, and I'm going to pick Sinners as my pick for the winner of original screenplay.
The prediction. Yep. That makes sense for you, and that makes sense. I completely see that. I did not get to catch up with Blue Moon. I think it's cool that it's here. You know, I've heard a lot of cool things about it. I think it's cool that It Was Just an Accident is here. Ultimately, my pick would be Marty Supreme. That would be my pick to win Best Original Screenplay. I really love the direction that movie goes. I love the direction that the dialogue, the way he's able to create these characters, so he fleshes them out so much that the cop who's there, his uncle, the Tyler O'Cuna, and you have Kevin O'Leary. I mean, there's a line in Marty Supreme that I think is one of the most popular lines from that is, I was born in 1601. I'm a vampire. Like, that was completely, by the way, improvised by Kevin O'Leary. He mentioned it.
Nice.
And Josh Safdie was like, let's do that. Let's keep that in our screenplay because we need that line. And it works flawlessly. And it rolls off the tongue quite like Uncut Gems. It constantly is causing chaos and confusion and anxiety. And I just think and it's the most quote unquote entertaining of the films here. It keeps you invested from beginning to end. And while the other ones do too, I do think it's more entertaining ultimately even than Sinners. But Sinners is my prediction. Sinners walks away with Best Original Screenplay. I just see it. So I visualize it. I visualize Ryan Coogler on stage grabbing the Oscar. You know what I mean? That's just how written in the stars I think it is.
Oh, yeah? Think it's that in the stars?
I really do.
All right. I'll take your word for it.
So, moving on, we have 2 categories left. We have director and best picture. So we'll move into directing. I don't know if you have the nominees up, but I'll allow you to read them if you do.
I do.
Okay.
All right. For best director at the 2025-26 Oscars, the nominees are Chloe Zhao, for Hamnet. Josh Sadfi, Marty Supreme. Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. Joachim Trier, Sentimental Value. And Ryan Coogler for Sinners. This is where I'm going to deviate, I think, a little bit from the current pattern. And my pick, there's a lot here that could. Looking at this, I know Hamnet. I wouldn't be surprised if it took it. I wouldn't hate it if it was the pick. Ultimately, the one that I'm going to go with for my pick is Ryan Coogler for Sinners.
Okay.
But the one that I think is going to take it, maybe deservingly so. I love this filmmaker. I think he deserves an Oscar. I wish he had won it for a different film. But I think this is going to go to Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. That's my prediction.
I think those are two great picks and predictions. I think it makes the most sense. It's the two juggernauts they're going in a fist fight against each other. Yeah. My pick for director would be, and this is based solely on preference for the career this man has had. It's also my prediction, and that's Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. While you could argue, and I do think, to be quite honest, the directing is not the flaw of this film. Where I look at this film, it's 2.5 hours, but it's smooth like butter. You're not sitting there like feeling tired by the runtime.
PTA is a wonderful director. There's no doubt about it. He directs the crap out of this film.
So it's my pick and my prediction. I go One Battle After Another for directing. So that leads us into the Best Picture nominees. They are as follows. Bugonia has Ed Gooney, Andrew Lowe, Yorgos Lanthimos, Emma Stone, Lars Knudsen, producers. F1,
directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. F1, you have Chad Omen, Brad Pitt, Dee Dee Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, directed by Joseph Kaczynski, Jerry Bruckheimer. Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro. J. Miles Dale and Scott Stuber are part of this as well. You have Hamnet, Liza Marshall, Pippa Harris, Nicholas Gonda, Steven Spielberg. Sam Mendes, directed by Chloe Zhao. Then you have Marty Supreme, Eli Bush, Ronald Bronstein, directed by Josh Safdie, Anthony Katagas, and Timothy Chalamet. One Battle After Another, Adam Somner, Sarah Murphy, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. The Secret Agent, Emile Lesclos, and the director, whose name escapes me at the time, it's 3 words, but he is obviously the director of The Secret Agent. And then you have Sentimental Value, which is Mariah Eckerhoft and Andrea Berenstain Ottomer, and directed by Joachim Trier. Sinners is Zinzi Kugler, Sev Ohanian, and directed by Ryan Coogler. And Train Dreams with Marissa McMahon, Teddy Schwarzman, Will Janowitz, Ashley Schlaflier, Michael Himmler, and directed by Clint Bentley. So, for the Best Picture conversation, we will go in a ranking from least favorite to most favorite, and these are our picks. The movies we think that, the order in which we've appreciated these. So, Nolan, because you have 8, I will start. And start with my number 10, going to my number 9, and then I will have you jump in at number 8.
Perfect.
At number 10, I have, probably not by surprise, F1. At number 9, I have Frankenstein.
Really?
I do.
Wow.
So then I'll have you start with your number 8, and then I'll jump in with my number 8, and we'll go snake order like that as we continue down.
Interesting. Okay, so do we want to rank all of these and then go back and talk about them?
Yeah,
Is that what you?
I think
All right,
so.
perfect. So my number 8 then is probably going to line up with your number 8, and it's probably going to shock you a little bit, but it's one battle after another.
That is also my number 8. Is one battle after another.
Yeah.
So number 7.
So at number 7, I have F1.
Okay. Number 7, I have Sinners.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. So for number 6, varying different, super from your list, I'm already seeing. Number 6, I have Train Dreams.
Okay. At number 6, I have The Secret Agent.
For number 5, I've got Begonia.
Number 5, I also have Begonia.
Perfect. We're aligned.
Yep.
The number 4 is where I've got Frankenstein.
Number 4 is where I have Hamnet.
Okay. Number 3 is where I have Sinners.
Number 3 is where I have Train Dreams.
Number 2, I have Hamnet,
Number 2, I have Sentimental Value.
which means obviously my number 1 pick for the Oscar. It's not going to win. It's heartbreaking. I'll survive. It's Sentimental Value.
And my number 1 is Marty Supreme. So, there are our picks. We do have some variations. I feel like
quite significantly in a lot of places.
I do feel like we have, Begonia lines up perfectly.
It
Sentimental Value, we both have it at the top.
Mm-hmm.
That we value. I think it's also worth noting that I think we had 2 5-star films in the 2025-26 Oscar nominations in Marty Supreme and Sentimental Value.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had 1.5-star film in F1. So there's quite a variation in degree and range in how I feel the nominations went.
Now, you put F1 at 1.5. I actually put it significantly higher at 3.
Okay. But Sentimental Value is a 5, I'm assuming. Yes. So, why don't, as we go through this, let's take some time and have a discussion about some of the more memorable, maybe the discussions we wanted to have with each other about how we feel about these movies.
Yeah, let's do it. And we'll just take them one by one. I think we'll start at the bottom because it's near the bottom for me. It's at the bottom for you. It'll be really quick. Let's start F1.
F1. All right. So I was baffled that F1 was nominated for Best Picture. I don't think I would call it a villain because it's not quite, it doesn't have the same level like Amelia Perez did. Amelia Perez was a villain of the Oscars, okay? There's no reason that movie should have had nearly as many nominations as it had. And there's no reason that, like, everybody talked about it. It in grand fashion was snubbed.
It was wonderful.
Well, I say snubbed, but it wasn't. They didn't deserve it. So it wasn't. That to me is a villain. F1 is not a villain. F1 is harmless media. F1 is fast cars going around on a racetrack that they've, it's not quite like NASCAR. They have obviously more adjusted racetracks.
Right.
But here are my glaring issues with F1. Like I said, I would give it the shoe-in for sound and editing. I think it deserves both of those.
Yeah.
I think that's all it deserves.
Yep.
Brad Pitt is so boring. He's the most boring I think I've ever seen him in a role. He does not look happy to be there. He doesn't seem to care. There are no stakes, by the way. A car flips multiple times in the air, explodes, and the guy in it, he gets a burn on his hand. It's rough. I know they wear protective gear. He didn't even walk away with like a bruised arm.
Nope.
It's like he didn't even walk away where the idea of him never driving again was even an option.
Nope.
The other thing is I talked to people who watched F1 who also watch Formula One racing. Because there's a lot of things I probably didn't get, probably didn't, pick up on because I don't watch Formula One racing. But this idea of Brad Pitt just being able to go in and play bumper cars with everybody, that's not something that can happen on the Formula One racetrack. That's his main goal is, hey, I'll just ruin everybody else's car and that's how I'll win.
Yep.
And that's not even legal in Formula One. So for that to be their main, driving, no pun intended, factor of how they're going to win is asinine. That doesn't even make sense. How can you say, oh, you know what, this will be our grand strategy, and guess what? It would never be legal in a regular Formula One racing match. I find that ridiculous.
You're thinking too much, Brady. You're thinking too much.
For people people were telling me that they have watched this movie with others, and it made those other people want to watch Formula One racing. So I think where you think I'm thinking too much, I think I am critically thinking about a movie that doesn't care enough. I think they don't care enough about their fan base, the actual fan base, to do true justice. They're like, hey, look at us. We have cool camera gear, and we're going to do some pretty sick stuff with our camera gear. Admittedly, they do.
They do.
And I will also say the final race is the reason why I have a 1.5 stars for this movie. That final race is entertaining to no end. It's so fun to watch. And at the end of the day, Sonny Hayes, he's not doing it for the money. He's doing it for the thrill. I can be the best at anything. But he doesn't care. He doesn't even seem happy to be there. And that, to me, is irritating.
Yeah.
So the fact that the line comes up is he discusses he doesn't do it for the movie. I even left in my review on Letterboxd how I said that if someone asked me what I thought at the end, I would sound like a swan. Which, if you watch the movie, you know what that's in reference to. And he said it's not about the money, and they asked him what's it about. And I hate that they have that line twice, because Joseph Kaczynski knows it's about the money. Don't say it's about anything else. And more power to you. Grab your bag and head home. There are people who love this movie.
Yep.
There are respectable people who really enjoy this movie. I do not ever have any intention of going back to rewatching F1.
Yeah, I was definitely dreading watching this movie. Almost to the point where I was like, forget it, I'm not going to do it. But I didn't have an excuse. I had access to the film, I had the time, so I had to knock it off. In the goal of being a completionist, and I wasn't anyways. But I had no excuse to not watch this film. I did not hate it the way you did. I never have to watch it again. You're right. There's no stakes. There's no risk, except for the risk that Sonny takes on the track. It's a perfect dad movie, which might be insulting to some dads to say out loud. It's Brad Pitt doing cool Brad Pitt stuff. It's nothing great. It's fast cars going zoom, zoom. To me, it's got a little bit of an emotional heart. Maybe it tries. The tech engineer, the woman, the love interest that Brad Pitt falls
Condon
for.
from Banshees of Inisherin, who I was actually excited to see, who I still feel like had a stale performance, but she's still alive-ish. She's more alive than Brad Pitt in this movie.
Absolutely. Sorry. She's more entertaining than Brad Pitt. Oh, shoot. I'm totally blanking on his name now.
Javier Bardem.
Yes, thank you. Why is he in this movie?
Great question.
Such a good actor. been in some masterpiece films, but here he is, and you're like, well, you know what? He was in Lyle Lyle Crocodile, so he's done some different movies from what he's done. Maybe he needed a paycheck.
Yep.
I say that. My wife loves Lyle Lyle Crocodile. I fell asleep, so I can't speak a lot to it. I'd have to rewatch the film. But Javier Bardem being in this film was a highlight. And then, give me the woman's name again.
Carrie Condon.
Yep, and she was a highlight.
She's also in Train Dreams.
Both added some life and some realness, for a lack of a better word, some enjoyment to this film that the other characters just didn't have. The young rookie, he was obnoxious.
Yeah,
he was so, and the fact that Brad Pitt saves his life, and then he doesn't tell his mom until the very end, and his mom comes all after Sonny, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, your kid screwed up. Didn't do what he was told. Otherwise, he would have won that race.
Yep.
So you need to check with your son, because he is not the angel you think he is. And Sonny is not the devil you think he is.
Yeah.
But that being said, I still put F1 over One Battle. I still had a fun time with F1. I will never watch it again. I don't have any desire to. I think it's a fine movie. I think it is about the money. I'm not surprised it was nominated. Every year there's a quote-unquote popcorn movie that's nominated for the Best Picture. F1 just happened to be the one this year. In a year almost that's kind of full of popcorn movie nominations. F1 is by far the most popular Best Picture.
Yeah,
so,
completely agree.
I was entertained. My life wasn't changed. At the end of the day, F1 doesn't matter. It's a fine movie. It's a good way to kill 2 hours, I guess. But
I think that's the other issue I had with it, is I wasn't even entertained.
Yeah.
If I had been entertained by this movie, I'm not soulless. I'm not just like, oh, F1, like it's no merit. It's like, entertain me. Fast cars, all right. Let's see. I might not walk away with substance, but maybe I'll walk away like, all right, had a great time.
Right.
I did not walk away like that.
It's a very okay time.
It's, if that, if that.
Fair enough.
So why don't we continue on this trend where we're talking about the ones we sort of agree with their placements?
Okay, let's do that.
So we'll do One Battle After Another.
Okay.
We both have it at the number 8 spot. This being the worst Best Picture you saw.
Yeah.
This being mediocre for me. This is tough. Because Paul Thomas Anderson is probably my favorite living American director today.
Yeah.
He's made movies like There Will Be Blood, The Master, Phantom Thread, Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia. Like, this guy, Inherent Vice, a vibe movie that I just don't think the man misses. Licorice Pizza, I don't think he misses.
There are so many other films where he should have won big Oscars.
Now, of course, I mean, and I have it even behind my head, the movie that beat out There Will Be Blood, that being No Country for Old Men. To each their own. I'm definitely a bigger fan of There Will Be Blood than I am
No Country
for Old Men. But One Battle After Another is my second least favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie after Hard Eight, his debut. This is not solely because of the politics of the film. I don't really find too many qualms with the politics of this film. I think that to each their own, for one thing. Everybody's allowed to have whatever political view they want.
Yep.
So with One Battle After Another, if you want to make it seem as though these revolutionaries are heroic, then great. Make these revolutionaries feel heroic. But he does more than that. He makes them feel heroic, but then also they're not. They're losers, some of them, and some, like Tiana Taylor's character actually is repulsive to
and
watch.
Even DiCaprio's character is a loser. He's not repulsive, but he's a loser.
Big loser. He's a big loser. And I mean, he does something too that's cool, and the fact that he has a scene with two people who aren't actors, being the military interrogator is actually by profession a military interrogator, and then the high school student he's talking to is actually just a high school student, not an actor. And that scene still feels very much in line with the movie.
Oh.
And the biggest complaint I have, because I don't want to spend too much time on all of these, I really would just want to hit a couple where it's like, okay, let's really flesh it out. One battle after another, for me, where it falls flat is it doesn't feel original. It does not feel, even in the material that Paul Thomas Anderson has taken before, he's been able to craft these fantastic movies with incredible characters, but all of these characters feel not only one note, but some of them are hard to watch on screen for too long of a time. No, he's created maybe one of his best characters in Sergeant Lockjaw. And that's one of the best characters he's written as far as entertainment value goes and nuance, in my opinion. I think he's arguably the most nuanced character in the film, despite being as repulsive and disgusting as he is. And I also feel like at the end of the day, Paul Thomas Anderson isn't quite sure what he wants to say. And I think that that's where the film falls flat for me. I think that he's not sure of himself, but he wants us to have a feeling. And I understand why it's getting all the acclaim it is. I understand why there are some people who feel like it's very timely. I agree with that 100%. I do think there are a lot of timely considerations that go into this movie, but I do think that I don't want to fall prey to, I'm comparing this film to the rest of his filmography. Of course, biasly, you're going to do that. That's just going to happen.
Right.
But I'm also comparing it to the remainder of the films in the Best Picture race. And I just didn't have as good a time with this film as I did the other ones, for the reasons I've mentioned and much more.
Right. Yeah, and that was, I mean, for me, the two biggest things with this film is one, I just wasn't entertained. I mean, really hardly at all. And two, it wasn't a subtle film. In PTA's lack of really knowing what he wants to say, he's not subtle about what he says. We get it. White Nazi guy's bad. We understand. We get it. Lockjaw is a scumbag. We get it. Tiana Taylor's supposed to be a hero, but PTA, she's one of the grossest characters in your film. We get it. Leo is the charming, lovable loser. He's still a loser.
Who does nothing right the entire
Who does nothing right. And really, a lot of everything, this film, it's stuff happening to him. To me, the hero in this film is Benicio del Toro.
100%.
Had Del Toro been the focus of this film, had he been the lead revolutionary, had he been the one driving the story, this would have been an easy 4-star film. Maybe a 5. Could have been one of the best things PTA's ever made. I just feel like it wasn't entertaining and it wasn't subtle. Was it timely? Maybe it was. There's things about it that are timely. There's also things about it that are very one-sided in their timeliness. It's like Fox News versus CNN, right? You've got the people that only watch Fox News and that's where they get all their information. And then you've got the people that only watch CNN and that's where they get all the information. It's like PTA got all of his information out of a strong left liberal agenda and threw it into this film. And he didn't even consider the rest of what's happening in the world. Which, again, you are entitled to your political opinion. It's not a political disagreement I have with this movie. Do I disagree with some of the ways he presents it? Sure, I do. I think the ways he presents the white men in this film are ridiculous. Like we're not all Christmas Nazis. But that's the way that they're painted. I just feel like it wasn't entertaining. I just feel like it wasn't subtle. This did not feel like a movie. This felt like a political sermon.
Mm.
And I am all okay with you putting your opinions and your views into your art. You should. I believe you should. But it's Ryan Johnson's political opinion in Knives Out versus the political agenda of Mickey 17 and Bong Joon-ho. And PTA leans much closer to Bong Joon-ho's on the nose, one note, one sided representation of what's going on in our country. And to me, it just made the film feel false.
Mm.
It made it feel incomplete. It made it dull. And there were all of maybe 3 characters in this film that I was rooting for. His daughter being one, and Benicio del Toro's sensei being another. And then the woman who rescues the daughter from the school, the revolutionary.
Regina Hall.
Yes, Regina Hall. That was it. In a 2.5-hour movie, those were the only people I found entertaining, only people I found redeemable. And let's not be false. Lockjaw's entertaining. Sean Penn is endlessly entertaining. But the movie for me fell flat. And that was really sad because, like you, I love PTA. And I want to see him succeed, and I want to see him win Oscars. It's just a bummer that this is the one. For me.
I can understand that. It's very similar feeling for me. And while I may not even feel although I do agree with you to an extent that it's very like one note. I think that's my biggest issue with this film is that it's very one note. I just think for all the movies he could have won an Oscar for, it feels like this one feels less earned.
Yep, I agree.
And that hurts. But that's okay. And so I think, we could talk about all of these Best Picture nominees for time after time after time. But I think what we'll do is we'll finish with our 2 most varying takes.
Okay.
Our one most varying take, the one that's most separate from each other, and then our pick and prediction.
Okay.
So that varying take is Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I have that at number 9, and you have that at number 2.
4.
I don't think number 4. Oh, I'm sorry.
4.
Hamlet's at number 2.
Correct.
So number 9 and number 4, there's not a bigger gap between our films. And so while I have not settled on a final rating for Frankenstein, it's somewhere in the 2.5 range.
Wow. Okay.
And I'll kind of explain myself. Frankenstein's the most recent one I got to watch, and I was semi looking forward to it. I really didn't have any idea what to expect. Yeah. I've talked to people who really, really liked it. I've talked to people who didn't care for it at all. I've read reviews of people who raved about it. I've read reviews about people who despised it. So I was like, I have no idea where I'm going to land. I really don't. I don't know if I'm going to fall head over heels for it or if I'm going to be opposed to it. My biggest opposition towards this film is how it feels like it's been Netflixed. It feels like the visuals, the cinematography feels very Netflixed. It feels like it's a set. Everywhere they walk, it's a set. None of these buildings feel lived in. None of these people or costumes even feel lived in. And I feel like, for the most part, the acting, save Oscar Isaac, who I do think does a pretty good job, despite I think his motivations are a little skewed. I do think Oscar Isaac goes from being arrogant, sure, but more like the pursuit of science,
right,
to just despising the creature, the monster. And it really doesn't come from a lot of outside influence. He just kind of starts to not like him. And this provokes him to beat him. This provokes him to hurt him. This provokes him to yell at him, scream at him. And ultimately, try to leave him for dead multiple times.
Yeah.
And to me, I just don't see how we got from point A to point B so quickly, to be so excited about your creation, to despising it in an instant. And although I love her, I think she's fantastic, Mia Goth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she does much for me in this film. This is one of her more lackluster performances for me. And I think she fits well, like a puzzle piece, into the movie. Mia Goth in a gothic romance. All right.
Yep.
As the pseudo bride, right? That Frankenstein carries out literally in her wedding gown.
Yep.
I think that what Guillermo del Toro does on paper, this idea of taking the Frankenstein story and taking the Frankenstein like lore and trying to make his own kind of Frankenstein like monster,
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that. But I think that it feels cheap at times. I think the feeling of when he's carrying out Mia Goth after she's been shot, of course, is reminiscent of Frankenstein, where he carries the girl through the village.
Right.
Right? That's obviously what it's harkening back to. The fact that she's in a wedding gown and he's asking for a mate, of course, the bride of Frankenstein. As you move further, you talk about the scene where he's with the blind man in the building. Again, the bride of Frankenstein, where that's how he befriends people when he comes back, and the people think he's the one who caused this man's death. It's very interesting. But again, it's the same thing we've seen before. And it feels like instead of adapting, he just rehashed a lot of it.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue I kind of lean into is this idea that he ends with, where we forgive the Father, where he forgives his God. And I just think that despite whether or not I agree with the sentiment, which I clearly don't, I do for the film, but I don't for the overall philosophical implications believe we need to forgive God for what he's done to us.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that is a baffling decision to make. To each their own. This is art, right? We need
Right.
to defend. So I'm glad Guillermo del Toro is doing stuff to like, hey, this is what I think is interesting.
Yeah.
But I just felt as though by the time we got to that point, I didn't buy the relationship between Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
No part of it ever felt real. So for this confession to come at the end, it doesn't hit me. It doesn't grab me where Victor apologizes to the monster. I love the science that they talk about in this movie. I love the fact that they kind of build this world of, it's not just about the idea that we could create, it's the behind the scenes of how we can create.
Right.
It gives it a little bit more merit of it being like in pursuit of science, which I appreciate. But I also think in that pursuit of intelligence, they're knocking the pursuit of faith. And I think that you don't have to contradict each other. And I think that that's not a nuanced take. I think that that's a completely normal Hollywood take, to knock faith and pursue science. I think that while that's the part that's so like frustrating me, is like I really appreciate the science part, but it's like you don't have to turn around and just say like just because you believe in it doesn't make it true. And it's like there's constant knocks. There's this tension that Guillermo del Toro wants to build that I think would be more interesting if he tried to blend.
Okay.
And I think that that's where the movie ultimately falls short for me, is the philosophical implications that I feel like he doesn't really take chances on. Sort of how in One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't take chances.
Yeah.
And what I will say lastly that I loved about it, I loved how freaking violent this movie was. I loved the violence.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching it, I didn't know if I did, but I loved the when he rips that wolf's like skin off. I was like, oh! And I know it's CGI, but it's gross.
Yeah.
And like when what's his name? Erland, when he falls and the back of his skull completely splatters on the ground. Yeah, that was gross. I was like, okay, I like this more violent Frankenstein. I like this idea, like violent Frankenstein movie.
Right.
The monster is also very violent, and Victor is fairly violent. But when he opens the door, even though I don't think that there's any way this would happen, maybe. But when he opens the door, the fire blows him back. He loses almost his whole leg. I was like, oh my gosh. All that stuff, when Guillermo del Toro is playing with the makeup and the gothic and the horror, and the violence, I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. And I think that that's, if you were going to implement anything into Frankenstein that was new, that was a great decision. But for all the other points I mentioned, it does fall a little flat.
Yeah. And Frankenstein for me is one that I'm still kind of wondering where it's going to land. I've got it at a 4. It's the middle of the road. It's one that will probably stay in the middle. It could go down as the year goes on, and I think about it more. It could go below Begonia. I don't think it would go any lower than that. And I think looking at the ideas of science and faith, that part for me in the film, it wasn't really something I paid attention to. It was the landscape. It was the creature appearance.
Absolutely.
It was the violence. It was those things that Del Toro is kind of known for, which he has wrestled with these ideas of faith and all those kinds of things in other films, of the ideas of belief and the ideas of creation and science and whatnot. But I think for me, I was actually kind of with you in the line that I was a little disappointed by Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I still gave it a 4. I still think it's a strong 4.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not a strong 4. I think it's a weak 4.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think what you said about the Netflixification of it is spot on. It just, the biggest weakness for me for this film is it felt too pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein felt too pretty. The moments that were beautiful also felt too polished. The walking Mia Goth down the stairs, great moment, but it also felt too produced. Maybe that's the right word, and that is exactly. The whole film felt very produced.
Yes.
So the things that I loved were enough to give it that low 4-star. It was enough to put it in the middle of my best picture list.
And there is quite a bit to love. It's Guillermo del Toro. He's a talented director.
Yes, he's a very competent director. Oscar Isaac, I think, gives a very good performance.
I agree.
I'm with you. The switch that he takes from adoring the creature to despising the creature, seemingly just because all the creature can say is Victor, doesn't make a lot of sense. If the creature had been violent first and then he despises the creature, that would have made more sense. I think that's how the story actually goes. It was also really kind of interesting watching this film with my wife because she had just finished reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, like the actual novelization.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of stuff early on where she was like, that's not how that's written. That character is not that mean. That's not. And then there are things she was like, yeah, that checks out with the story. And then there are some things that were just personal preference. She was like, oh, I thought he would have been younger or X, Y, Z, whatever. So that made an interesting viewing experience for me, for her to see all those, to know those things, having just read the novel. But yeah, for me, this was it was fine. It was a lackluster, and even now, as I'm thinking about it, maybe Begonia is a better film. Um,
It is.
it probably is. It's definitely a more risk-taking film. It's definitely
Yeah.
got more memorable moments.
Mhm.
Frankenstein is a very safe film. It's very
Yeah.
safe. It's not Guillermo del Toro really taking risk. It's
It's
not.
like,
It's not Pan's Labyrinth. It's not Crimson Peak. It's not even
that's
really, and I haven't seen this film, so I can't speak too much of it. But it's not even really The Shape of Water. Um,
there is like some similarity between the fact that you have the woman fall in love with the monster,
right,
but
right.
aside from that, yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel. Oh, and it's not Pinocchio. That's another.
Mhm.
That's the one that I think last year won the award. I remember watching Pinocchio, and I fell head over heels for it immediately.
Mhm.
It just feels like there's no. All we got of Del Toro in Frankenstein was gothic horror.
Mhm.
That was it. We didn't get his view of life. We didn't get. Now I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. We didn't get his political view like we did in
Mhm.
Pinocchio, like we do in films like Pan's Labyrinth. We didn't get the emotional complexity and the depth of relationship like you do in Crimson Peak.
Which, how do you not in a movie with it being Frankenstein? I
Yeah, I don't
think
know.
what's happening like on a larger scale is like I also despised Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
Yeah,
And people are trying to take these old stories and they're trying to either reinvent the wheel or just make it because they want to make it. And while I can appreciate people like Guillermo del Toro making Frankenstein on paper, when you say it out loud, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it does.
But does it need to be done? I don't think so. I think the original Frankenstein with Boris Karloff, James Whale, I think is the director.
Mhm.
That movie is fantastic, and I don't know. So I can see, like for me personally, I'm not going to pick on a director because you don't take enough risks. That's not always what you need to do for a movie. You don't
Right.
always need to take risks, but what you do need to do is you need to at least do something interesting with the material. And he doesn't do anything interesting with the material. He should have
Right.
just left it where it was, and I think that it would have been better.
It doesn't.
And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
for all
go
the
ahead.
ways that it feels like it has his stamp, it also feels like it doesn't.
I hard agree, 100%. And so, obviously, with your number one being sentimental value, my number one being Marty Supreme, which has gone back and forth with sentimental value nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
Those are clearly our picks for what we
Really?
wish would win Best Picture.
Yep.
I have a prediction, and
Okay.
I'm sure you have a prediction, and
I
we'll
do.
close with this. Here's my rub.
Okay.
I don't know how you nominate a movie 16 times and you don't give it the Best Picture.
Yeah.
That's my rub. I don't know how you do that. I really would. And I also don't know why, but when I was listening to other people discuss Sinners versus One Battle After Another, they keep calling Sinners the underdog. Hey, if you're the most nominated film in history of the Oscars, in no way, shape, or form are you the underdog. Do you know what I mean? There's no way you will ever be the underdog.
I understand both sides of the argument. I think I really do.
Okay.
No, I get
Yeah.
it. And I can see. I just think that Sinners has the up on the nominations, but I think the current landscape of the country and of Hollywood and of the people making the decisions, the powers that be, if you will. I think that's why people are probably saying that Sinners is the underdog, because I think the powers that be favor One Battle After Another.
Is that your prediction? One battle?
I think it is.
It's between two, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's One Battle or it's Sinners. It really is. There's no contest. Everybody else can go home.
My final prediction I think it's Sinners. I do.
Okay.
I give it to Sinners, and I give it to Sinners based on if they win Best Actor, right? If you win Best Actor and you win Best Original Screenplay, the only thing that if Ryan Coogler wins Best Director, I think it's a lock. I don't think that if Ryan Coogler wins Best Director, that One Battle After Another takes it.
I agree.
I also just think that Sinners is that movie where also, by the way, so I heard people say this. I thought this was really cool. With it possibly being Warner Brothers' swan song, it's really cool that One Battle After Another and Sinners are both Warner Brother features.
Yeah.
And they both did well at the box office, and they were both like widely accessible, like films.
Yeah. Critically and
that's
commercially.
Cool. That whatever you feel about the films, that's cool. And I just so my final pick is my final prediction. You go One Battle, I go Sinners. I guess we'll see on Sunday.
I guess we will.
And
probably
everyone
Monday.
else,
I'll probably be asleep by the time they announce the Best Picture on Sunday.
Oh,
Monday morning.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But there you guys have it. Our Oscar picks and predictions, our Oscar discussion. I really did have a great time. Like, I really am so excited about all of these movies. And maybe we'll talk about some of these movies in further detail on other episodes.
I hope so.
Down the line.
Because there's a lot of these that we could dig into. There's a lot of these that I'd love to dig into. For sure.
And I think overall, it's just, I had 2 5-star films, 2 4.5s. So for everything, I think that it was ultimately a great Oscar year.
This was probably one of the best Oscar slates we've had in recent memory. I mean, probably the best that we've had since 2020. If we could even go back that far. I'm thinking of the best pictures that have won in the years prior and the ones that I've seen and the films that I caught during the best picture races. And I think this is one of the most consistently strong best picture years. And even in the other major categories and many of the minor categories. Across the year, I'm very pleased with these Oscar nominations. And I hope you're right. I hope Sinners takes it. That would be, of the 2 juggernauts, that's my hope. And we'll see.
Yeah. I would love a world where Paul Thomas wins director, Coogler wins Sinners. But either way, I guess we'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys make your picks and predictions. Don't bet too much because I really do believe this Sunday is going to be a toss-up.
Don't bet at all. We don't condone gambling on this channel. $5 bets, maybe.
Yeah, they're harmless. So
betting at home, go that way.
Yeah. Well, until next time, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in.
We'll see you later.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I'm finished.